The Galactic Council chamber was silent. Not the kind of silence that comes from respect or peace. This was a heavy, uneasy silence, filled with tension that could be cut with a knife. Hundreds of alien delegates, each from a different star system, sat around the massive circular table. Their faces, some tentacled, some scaled, some completely featureless, were set in grim lines. Every eye in the room was fixed on the glowing holographic map at the center. The map showed the galaxy. Bright stars and planets glimmered against the black void. But one cluster was different. It pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat. That cluster represented Earth and the human colonies. Most species had avoided it for centuries, fearing the strange reports that had reached Council ears. Whispers had become stories, and stories had become legends. And today, the Council would discuss humans for the first time in centuries. A tall, thin alien with silver skin leaned forward. His voice was cold, but it carried through the chamber like a blade. They say humans fight differently. Not like us. Not like any species we have encountered. Murmurs spread across the room. Some aliens clicked their mandibles nervously. Others shifted in their seats. A small green delegate raised a trembling claw. What do you mean? Differently? The silver alien's eyes glinted. They do not fight to dominate. They do not fight to conquer. They fight to end wars. Entire wars. Finished in days, with fewer losses than we could imagine. And yet the other species fear them. They fear humans more than any weapon we have ever created. The room went quieter. The weight of those words hung like smoke. Some delegates whispered to each other, but no one dared speak loudly. Fear was in the air, subtle but undeniable. At that moment, a shadow moved at the edge of the chamber. All eyes turned to the entrance. A human figure stepped in. Calm, confident, not armed, not threatening, just a man in a simple uniform. His name was Captain Arik Voss, and the room seemed to hold its breath. Arik walked to the center, where the holographic Earth pulsed. He raised his hand slightly. I know why you are all here, he said, his voice steady. You are here because you have questions about my species. You are here because you have heard rumors. And rumors, as you know, are always exaggerated. Some delegates leaned forward. Others recoiled slightly, unsure how to react to the human. He was only one man, yet he carried an aura that demanded attention. Arik continued, I am here to tell you the truth. Humans fight wars differently. We do not seek glory. We do not seek revenge. We do not destroy without reason. We fight to end the fighting as quickly as possible and with the least loss of life. Not just ours, but yours too. A tall alien with horns huffed. And what if your way destroys our pride? Our fleets? Our armies? Arik smiled faintly. That is exactly what happens. And that is why you fear us. Murmurs again spread through the chamber. Fear mixed with disbelief. How could one species so young compared to the galaxy strike terror without massive armies, without countless weapons? The holographic map shifted, showing recent battlefields. Images flickered, destroyed alien fleets, abandoned command centers, empty cities, but almost no human casualties. Aliens died, yes. Machines exploded. Starships vanished. But humans were always intact, calm, and in control. An alien with golden feathers clicked his beak nervously. These reports? How can one species achieve such precision? Arik's eyes met his. We study, we plan, we predict. We find the weakest points, the turning points. We strike where the war itself is weakest. We do not fight blindly. That is how humans win wars. Not by sheer force, but by understanding. By thinking. The chamber went completely silent. Every delegate's mind tried to grasp what he was saying. Humans did not fight like predators. They fought like surgeons. Precise, calculated, deadly, but controlled. One of the oldest aliens in the chamber, a massive being whose body glowed faintly, spoke in a voice like thunder. You speak of precision, but you speak also of mercy. How can one species be both? And why have you not been stopped sooner? Arik looked at him calmly. Because you never understood us. Because the galaxy assumed all species seek power through war. Humans do not, and that is why the Galactic Law must be created. To contain us. Not because we are cruel, but because we are too effective. The weight of his words hit the Council like a shockwave. Some aliens recoiled, some whispered fearfully. The room had never been this tense. And everyone, without knowing it, understood one thing clearly. Humans were not like any other species. Humans were a force of nature. And now the galaxy had no choice but to decide, could humans be allowed to fight? Or should they be banned forever? Arik stepped back. His gaze moved slowly over every delegate. Decide wisely, he said softly. Because one day the wars you cannot end may be ended by us anyway, and by then you may not like the price. A hush fell. The holographic Earth pulsed brighter, as if echoing his words. The council realized something chilling. Humans were calm, almost peaceful, but terrifying in ways no one could predict. And so began the debate. The council would discuss laws, strategy, fear, and survival. But one question hung over the chamber like a storm cloud. Why must humans be banned from war? And more importantly, could any law ever truly contain them? The chamber waited. The galaxy waited. And somewhere deep in the void, humans watched silently, knowing the story of war had just changed forever. The doors to the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a hiss. Silence fell instantly, heavier than before. A single human entered, walking steadily toward the center. Captain Eric Voss carried no weapons. No visible devices, only a simple uniform neatly pressed, as if he had walked straight out of his home planet. Yet the air seemed to bend around him, as if acknowledging his presence. Every delegate's eyes followed him. Some leaned forward in curiosity, others shifted uncomfortably. Even the oldest, most battle-hardened members of the council felt a chill crawl across their skin. Humans were not supposed to be here. They were supposed to be a rumor, a story, a cautionary tale whispered in fearful corners. And yet here he stood, calm, confident, and completely human. Arik stopped at the center of the circular table. His eyes, sharp but not cruel, swept across every alien face. There was no fear, no arrogance, only a quiet certainty. He raised a hand slightly, a gesture both formal and casual. "I know why you called me," he said. His voice was even, steady, carrying across the room without needing amplification. "You have heard stories about humans, about our wars, about our victories. And you are afraid." A delegate with 4 eyes clicked nervously. "Afraid? What are you talking about?" Arik's gaze met theirs. "I am talking about the truth. Humans fight differently. We do not seek revenge. We do not fight for pride. We fight to end wars, quickly and efficiently. And for some, that is terrifying." A murmur passed through the chamber. Some aliens hissed, others waved tentacles, all whispering to one another. Fear had a smell, and tonight it hung thick in the air. He lifted his hand again, and the holographic map of the galaxy shimmered above him. Earth pulsed faintly in the starfield. Arik gestured toward it. "This is my home. These colonies," he said, sweeping his hand over the glowing dots scattered across nearby systems, "are not conquerors. We are observers. And when forced, we act to end the fighting, no matter the cost, not with cruelty, but with precision." Some delegates recoiled slightly. "Precision? You destroy fleets and armies with no losses?" a golden-feathered alien asked, its voice quivering. Arik nodded. "Our battles are calculated. Every move is planned. Every strike targets the heart of the conflict. We do not waste lives. Not ours, not yours. But if you stand in the way of peace, we will act." The chamber was still. The weight of his words settled over everyone. Humans were young compared to most species in the council, yet the presence of a single man, calm and clear-eyed, carried more power than an entire fleet. Arik continued, his voice soft but firm. "You may ask why we do this, why we risk lives to save those who were once our enemies. Because we understand something that most species do not. War is not honor. War is not glory. War is pain, and it is a tool, not a purpose. The galaxy must survive, not just a single people." Some delegates looked away, unsure how to react. Others whispered, clearly unsettled. One by one, the images above the table shifted. Recent conflicts, fleets neutralized with no human casualties, cities left standing while opposing armies collapsed. The pattern was clear and terrifying. "You see," Arik said, stepping closer to the hologram, "humans are not a species that fights for victory. We fight to end wars entirely. And that is why you fear us. That is why the Galactic Law will ban us from combat, because our success does not come from brute force. It comes from understanding strategy and mercy." He paused, letting his words sink in. Every delegate understood that this was not bravado. Every report, every map, every story they had ever heard about humans was true. Humans did not fight like predators. They fought like surgeons. Precise, efficient, and utterly terrifying. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then, a small voice from the back asked, almost reluctantly, "And if humans are banned, will that stop them?" Arik's eyes narrowed slightly, a shadow crossing his calm face. "No," he said softly, almost to himself. "Nothing can stop humans once they choose to act. Only fear, hesitation, and laws you make in panic." A shiver ran through the council. They realized all at once that humans were not just participants in war. Humans were a force that could change the course of the galaxy forever. The debate had begun, but the Council did not yet understand the full truth. They did not know the human way, and that ignorance would haunt them for the rest of their lives. The Council chamber lights dimmed, replaced by the holographic display of a distant battlefield. Eric's eyes narrowed as he gestured, and the room filled with the scene of chaos, a shattered planetary surface, smoke curling into the thin atmosphere, and alien forces scrambling to regroup. The delegates gasped. Some had never seen humans in action, only heard whispers, yet even these images were enough to make the hairs on their tentacles and spines stand on end. Observe carefully, Arik said, his voice calm but commanding. This is what humans do, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. The hologram shifted, showing a fleet of human ships dropping from orbit with perfect coordination. Each vessel moved as if guided by a single mind, dodging enemy fire while sending precision strikes to key targets. The alien defenders scrambled, launching their weapons, but the humans anticipated every move. From the surface, the human ground forces deployed. Soldiers advanced through ruined cities, their armor scratched and scorched, yet their movements precise, almost surgical. A group of alien infantry charged, but the humans did not panic. They set up containment fields, herding the attackers into zones, where their attacks could be neutralized without unnecessary destruction. A golden-winged delegate whispered to a companion, They are not killing recklessly. They are controlling the battlefield. Exactly, Arik said, noticing the whisper. Humans understand the value of life. Not just their own, but even that of their enemies. Each strike is calculated to end the fight swiftly. Every move, every tactic designed to minimize casualties wherever possible. The hologram zoomed closer. On the ground, a human soldier carried a wounded alien child out of the crossfire, placing them behind a protective barrier. Another squad disabled enemy weapons without firing a single shot, dismantling their capabilities through strategy and cunning. This is the difference, Arik continued. Other species fight for revenge, for glory, for conquest. Humans fight to end war itself, and that makes us dangerous. One of the council members, a crustacean-like general, shifted nervously. Dangerous? You mean terrifying. We have never seen such efficiency without savagery. Arik's gaze swept the chamber. That is exactly why humans are banned from war. Our victories are absolute yet merciful. We do not celebrate death. We prevent it when we can, and yet, we will win no matter what. No one can stop humans who are determined to end a conflict. The scene on the hologram changed again. The battle's climax approached. Enemy reinforcements surged from the horizon, overwhelming in number. The aliens in the chamber murmured, certain this was the end for the humans. But the soldiers remained calm. Arik's voice lowered, deliberate. Notice this moment. A human commander raised his hand, and the troops adjusted instantly, creating a chain of movements that funneled the attackers into a narrow canyon. Artillery strikes disabled the enemy vehicles without harming the terrain. Shields and barriers protected civilians trapped in the crossfire. And as the final wave of enemy forces advanced, the humans struck precisely at the command centers, disabling leadership and cutting off communications. Within minutes, the battlefield quieted. The humans stood among the ruins, breathing heavily but unscathed. Their enemies, stunned and immobilized, could do nothing. Not one human life lost. The alien forces were neutralized, not annihilated. Their power broken without unnecessary bloodshed. The delegates sat in silence. Some felt admiration. Others felt fear. One alien whose species had never known mercy in war whispered, They are not monsters. And yet, they are unstoppable. Arik nodded. You understand now. That is why humans are banned. Because our way of fighting is a paradox. We end war, yet we cannot be controlled. We protect life, yet we wield power that terrifies. And any council that attempts to command us learns quickly that humans are not pawns. We are the scalpel in a galaxy full of sledgehammers. He stepped back, letting the image fade. The battlefield disappeared, leaving the chamber in silence, heavy with the weight of realization. The council had seen the truth. Humans were not simply soldiers, they were a force that redefined war. And the council's fear grew, not of death, not of destruction, but of humans who could fight with clarity, strategy, and mercy all at once. No one spoke for a long moment. Every alien delegate understood the same truth. Whispered across every corner of the chamber, the galaxy could not control humans. And that made them the most dangerous species alive. The council chamber buzzed with tension, a low hum of voices and nervous gestures. The holograms had vanished, leaving only the memory of human precision and mercy, hovering in every delegate's mind. For the first time in centuries, they faced a problem they could not solve with fleets or weapons. "Are we to simply ban them?" hissed a winged representative, feathers bristling with unease. "A species that fights not for blood, not for glory, but for survival and protection. How can we call them a threat?" Arik's eyes narrowed. "It is not their intent we fear. It is their power. Every calculation they make, every strategy they devise, ends in efficiency that no one else can match. And that efficiency is beyond control. One human in the field can decide the fate of entire planets. One human can rewrite a war." A crustacean general tapped his claw nervously. "And yet, they save lives. They prevent massacres. They give mercy even to their enemies. It is admirable." Arik leaned forward, voice steady but firm. "Admirable, yes. But imagine this. A human chooses a side, decides that one war must end. Entire systems bend to their will. Not through terror, not through oppression, but because they succeed. And what if they deem a council's decision wrong? What then? Do we oppose them? Can we stop them?" The room fell silent. The council members, experienced in thousands of wars and political intrigues, could not answer. None had ever faced a force like this. Humans fought not for conquest, not for personal gain, not even for ideology. They fought for the principle of ending conflict, efficiently, with minimal loss. And that was terrifying. A voice spoke from the back, shaking slightly. "It is their morality that frightens us. They act with clarity, not emotion. Even mercy becomes a weapon. Every choice is precise. Every act calculated." "Yes," Arik said. "The human way of war is a moral paradox. They show compassion, but their strategy ensures victory. They protect, yet they destroy. They end battles, yet they cannot be directed by others. And they do all this while maintaining discipline, honor, and focus unlike any other species we have encountered." The chamber was heavy with debate. Some delegates argued that the humans should be allowed to continue, that their mercy and efficiency would bring balance to the galaxy. Others whispered fearfully that no council, no alliance could ever hope to contain them. Arik let them argue, letting the weight of human deeds settle in their minds. He allowed them to picture the battlefield, the humans standing calm amidst fire and chaos, saving lives even as they neutralized enemies. The image was mesmerizing, terrifying, inspirational, a reptilian delegate growled. "But their success is indisputable. Even when they save lives, they reshape the battlefield. They decide outcomes. Who among us could claim such authority? None. We would bow even if we wished otherwise. That is the danger." Arik nodded. "Exactly. That is why the ban is necessary. Not because they are cruel, not because they kill, because they cannot be controlled. Because no council, no law, no empire can command them to act as we would wish. And when humans intervene, the galaxy is changed, permanently." A murmur of unease swept through the chamber. The aliens were not debating morality. They were debating survival. The humans were not just soldiers. They were catalysts of change, forces of inevitable consequence. To allow them to fight without restriction was to surrender control over the galaxy itself. One elder, his face lined with scars of centuries, leaned forward. "So we are banning not evil, but excellence?" Arik's voice dropped to a whisper, heavy with gravity. "Excellence? And mercy, and clarity, and power that no one else can match. We are not punishing humans for what they do wrong. We are restraining them, because they are too good at war. Too precise, too human." The delegates shifted uncomfortably. No one had thought of war in this way before. Every battle they had fought had been a struggle for survival, for dominance, for pride. And yet these humans, with their strange combination of strategy and compassion, had rewritten the rules. One young envoy, still trembling, asked quietly, "And if they defy the ban?" Arik's eyes flashed. "Then they will act as humans always act, decisively, correctly, and without hesitation. And the galaxy will watch powerless as they achieve what others could not even imagine." The council knew the truth, though they feared speaking it aloud. Humans were a species unlike any other, not cruel, not reckless, not even conquerors, but a force that could challenge the very foundation of galactic law itself. And so the decision was made. Humans would be banned from participating in wars, not because of bloodshed, not because of violence, but because humans, in their efficiency, their morality, and their terrifying clarity could not be restrained. The council sighed, some with relief, some with fear, and as the chamber emptied, Arik remained behind, staring at the empty seats. He knew, as every human observer would, that the ban was only a temporary measure. For humans, when they acted, would always follow a path they believed was right, and the galaxy, for all its laws, could do nothing to stop them. Far above the council chambers, in a quiet observation deck, Arik watched the human commander move with calm precision. Every gesture, every word, every pause was measured. Not a flicker of uncertainty, not a trace of arrogance. And yet there was no hint of fear either. It was this strange balance that unsettled even the most seasoned alien generals. The humans never fought blindly. They did not rush into battle. They did not rely on sheer numbers or overwhelming firepower. They observed, calculated, predicted, and adapted. Every move was intentional. Every action weighed against the cost of life, both their own and their enemies. Arik remembered the battle reports, the hollow recordings of planetary skirmishes. On one barren world, a human unit had faced a legion of heavily armed aliens, each more dangerous than the next. The aliens had expected a violent, bloody assault, but instead the humans had paused, studied the terrain, and anticipated every trap. One by one, enemy weapon systems failed, not through sabotage, not through sheer force, but through human strategy that used the enemy's own mistakes against them. The humans were architects of war, and the battlefield was their blueprint. Arik could still see the footage. A small human figure, calm amidst chaos, moving through explosions and collapsing structures with unwavering focus. They avoided unnecessary casualties, even among their enemies, guiding civilians away from the path of destruction. It was as if the human mind could foresee the consequences of every action before it was taken. It was not luck. It was calculation, logic, morality intertwined with efficiency. Where aliens relied on brute strength or intimidation, humans relied on understanding, insight, and the ability to predict. They studied their opponents as if every thought, every instinct could be mapped and countered. And when they struck with precision that left no room for error. Yet it was not cold. There was a strange humanity to it. They did not kill for sport. They did not revel in chaos. Even when faced with overwhelming odds, their priority was always the protection of life. Arik realized why the council feared them, not because they were cruel, but because they were perfect in a way no other species could match. And there was another layer, one that few had considered. Humans were unpredictable. They could be anticipated in method, but never in spirit. They adapted. They improvised. They made choices that no algorithm could predict. They combined logic with creativity, empathy with decisiveness. Where the galaxy saw order, humans saw opportunity. Where others saw chaos, humans found solutions. Arik's mind drifted to the reports of the V garrison operation. The humans had neutralized the entire command, structure of the enemy without destroying a single civilian habitat. Entire fleets had been rerouted, traps dismantled, lives preserved, all through subtle strategy and relentless patience. The Council had assumed such an approach was impossible. Yet the humans had done it, and the galaxy had no defense against it. It was not just skill. It was their philosophy. Arik remembered a human officer's words from the debriefing. Victory is not measured by bloodshed, but by what survives afterward. That principle turned war into something alien to every species in the chamber. Other species fought for territory, for revenge, for pride. Humans fought for a future, and in doing so, they reshaped the battlefield and the galaxy itself. The humans' secret lay not in their weapons, not in their technology, but in their minds. They analyzed patterns, anticipated outcomes, and chose the path that saved the most lives while achieving the mission. And when compromise was impossible, they acted with absolute certainty. That combination, calculated mercy, relentless precision, and fearless decision-making, was something the Council could not control, could not predict, and could not survive against if ever fully unleashed. Arik felt a shiver run through him. Every general in the galaxy feared this truth. Not the human weaponry, not their numbers, but the human will, the human mind, the human ability to act decisively, morally, and effectively when all else faltered. "Why ban them?" asked one junior delegate, still shaking. "If they save lives, why fear them?" Arik's eyes hardened. "Because they cannot be bound by law. They do not fight to serve orders. They fight to do what is right. And in that, they are unstoppable. One human can topple fleets, end wars, and rewrite the history of the galaxy in a single campaign. They will not be commanded. They will not submit. And that terrifies us. Outside the observation deck, the stars burned quietly. The humans moved among them like a storm, waiting to happen, a force of nature, with mind and heart intertwined. No law, no treaty, no council could contain them, and the galaxy would always tremble, knowing that when humans acted, the results were inevitable. For the first time, Auric understood the true power of humanity. Not in violence, not in strength, but in their singular, unyielding way of thinking, of fighting, and of choosing. The humans were not just soldiers, they were arbiters of life, death, and justice. And the galaxy had only one choice: to fear them, respect them, and ultimately, ban them from battle. The council chambers were silent, the weight of their own fear pressing down like a star collapsing under its own mass. Auric stood at the edge watching as the final vote was cast. Every delegate knew the truth, they could not risk it. The humans were a force beyond control, beyond morality as they understood it. The decision was unanimous. The law would be written. Humans were banned from engaging in any form of warfare across the galaxy, not because they were cruel, not because they were reckless, but because they were too precise, too moral, and too unpredictable. Their victories could save millions, yet they could also dismantle entire empires without mercy for corruption or inefficiency. As the law was declared, Auric thought of the human commander he had watched for weeks, calm, measured, yet utterly unstoppable. The humans did not fight for glory. They did not fight for territory. They fought for life itself, the preservation of the innocent, the protection of the weak, and the survival of a future worth living. That combination of intelligence, morality, and relentless courage made them both heroes and terror in equal measure. The humans themselves did not protest. They had been observing quietly, participating in council discussions only when necessary, speaking with a clarity and calmness that unsettled every alien present. Their gaze never wavered. Their silence was not fear, it was a statement. They did not need permission to act. They needed only a reason, and the universe had yet to offer one they could not answer. Auric remembered the battle reports, the hollow footage of human operations across multiple systems. Cities that should have burned were spared. Enemy soldiers who might have died unnecessarily were given a chance to surrender. Civilian lives were preserved, even when it complicated the mission. It was not weakness, it was mastery. The humans understood that true power lay not in destruction, but in choosing what must live and what must die with absolute certainty. He remembered one operation in particular, on a desert world torn apart by civil war. The humans had infiltrated a heavily fortified base, controlled by a ruthless alien warlord. By any standard, it should have been impossible. But they had observed, calculated, and acted with such precision that the warlord's forces were incapacitated without a single civilian casualty. And yet, when the humans left, the warlord's army was still alive, still able to rebuild. They had chosen the lives they would save and the enemies they would leave to learn their lesson. That was the moment Auric realized why the council feared them. Humans did not fight for conquest. They fought for reason. And reason cannot be contained by orders, by treaties, or by laws. To them, morality was a weapon as sharp as any blade, and justice was a strategy more devastating than 1,000 fleets. The law passed. Humans were forbidden from fighting wars. Across the galaxy, flags were lowered, fleets were recalled, and armies were disbanded at human request. Some alien leaders celebrated, thinking they had tamed a force too dangerous to unleash. But Auric knew the truth. They had not tamed anything. The humans had simply been asked to wait until a greater purpose called them into action again. He watched as the human commander stood silently, their eyes fixed on the stars beyond the council chambers, massive observation windows. There was no anger in their face, no resentment, only understanding. They accepted the law not as a limitation but as a challenge, because humans did not need permission to fight. They only needed a cause worth defending. Outside, the galaxy continued on its chaotic path, unaware of the decision that had just been made. Worlds would rise and fall, fleets would clash, wars would rage, and yet the humans, silent and patient, would always be ready to act where others could not, ready to save millions where others would hesitate, ready to wield the terrifying combination of morality, intelligence, and courage that had forced the galaxy to bend its own laws to restrain them. Auric felt a chill run through him. One day the humans would move again. When that moment came, no empire, no council, no fleet could stop them. The galaxy would see the power of a species that fought not for greed, not for honor, but for life itself. and that power would be unstoppable. He glanced back at the human commander one last time. Their posture was relaxed, almost ordinary. Yet Arik knew better. That ordinary calm concealed an extraordinary force, the force that had reshaped the galaxy's understanding of war. The force that had forced a council to write laws not to punish humans, but to prevent them from doing what they did best. And as Arik left the chamber, a single thought echoed in his mind. When humans fight, they do not merely win battles. They change the galaxy. The stars outside burned quietly, infinite and indifferent, but the humans, patient and unwavering, were ready. Always ready. And the galaxy, no matter how many laws it passed, would always tremble at their name. Because humans did not fight for war. They fought for life. And life, the Council realized, was the most dangerous weapon in the universe.